Hello there. It's Levels Plus Whenever, episode 96. Wanted to get something together before I go on vacation and go to the game store, Gamers in Control, on that vacation. So that's going to be a pretty big pickup chunk, I'm sure. We'll probably tie something inventory-wise around that, to be completely honest. But we're going to talk about something completely different today, which is some of my favorite women in video games. I've pulled together 100 that I really like over many different games, and I'm going to try to kind of figure out the best of the best out of that process. Should be interesting. I've also got some pickups that I wanted to get out of the way before we actually jump into Gamers in Control pickups, because like I said, that's going to be huge. We'll start with Princess Peach Showtime. I got this acrylic stand of, what do they call her? Sword Fighter Peach. It does have a different backdrop. I just kind of like the curtain. And the game itself. The funny thing is that I actually had to order the acrylic stand to be shipped separately because they weren't there at the time I picked up the game. It's like, oh, great. I also got Trope World DX from Japan. Came with the soundtrack and a little like guide in Japanese in a nice little box. I played through that yesterday and it was a good time, but I do have to say that the DX version's a bit busted. The background tiles overcome the foreground in a couple areas in the colored version, and it doesn't look like it does that in the original version. So, Carbon Ninja's got a little bit of work to do. Speaking of things that have a little bit of work to do, it's the Atari 400 Mini, which is adorable, and it's a great little console in terms of aesthetics. It's really, really good. The keyboard, unfortunately, doesn't work, but considering the size of it, it'd be really hard to hit any of the buttons. I played Mule on it, and the Mule version that they sourced for this is busted. The Wumpus doesn't work right and actually will crash the game in some occasions. And there's no mules in the shop, so you can't actually see how many are there, which is a kind of important strategy element. And the land office is like missing letters. They have acknowledged this. I will give Retro Games that benefit of the doubt. They put up a separate working properly version to download, since you can download pretty much anything that's compatible with this thing on a USB stick. But it doesn't give the greatest first impression when one of the most iconic games of the 80s computer scene is not given the care and attention that it deserves. But I will eventually, when this gets, I think, probably a firmware update, then I'll actually do the ranked for it and try out all the other games. The controller is really uncomfortable, but that's authentic. I mean, the old Atari joystick was designed the way it was, and this is it. I remember playing an Atari 2600, and that was pretty much what the stick felt like. But other controllers are compatible with this thing, so I'm going to probably play it with another controller and map the buttons better to make it a little bit more sense to me. So I'm happy with it, but I'm hoping that it's got a lot of firmware to kind of correct some of the issues. All right, one last thing rolled in before I concluded editing the video, and it is this awesome print by Beth Birad, a artist streamer that I greatly enjoy her work, and I actually watched her create the majority of that piece, and just fell in love with it, so I knew I had to have it when it went up for sale. So I'll have a link to her shop in the description if you're interested. Alright, well, now that the pickups are done, you probably noticed that I changed the set behind me. Put a different shelf there entirely and moved the books back over. I just get tired of things being the same after a while, and I want to get better lights than just standard holiday lights. So for now, it will be without lights behind me, but they'll eventually be back. Alright, so as I said, I have built a PowerPoint with 100 women that I really like in games. Just some of my absolute favorite characters, as well as some that I just really like playing as, or just like their design, or probably a combination of things. And Akari Hiyami from 1080 is just the very first slide, so that's why she's here. So I just want to run through the 100 slides extremely fast. I'm not going to get into specifics why. And then as I kind of look through them, I'm going to be thinking, if I were to narrow this down to like 25, what would be the 25 greatest women in video games in my opinion? So, Akari Yami from 1080, Ashley Mizuki Robbins from Another Code, Lynn from Fire Emblem The Binding Blade, Petra from Fire Emblem Three Houses, Edelgard from Fire Emblem Three Houses, Marin from Fire Emblem Engage, Medusa from Kid Icarus Uprising specifically, Callista from The Last Story, Midna from Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess and Hyrule Warriors, Zelda from Breath in the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, Impa from Hyrule Warriors, Linkle from Hyrule Warriors, Samus Aran from Metroid, Kachi from Sin and Punishment Star Successor, Marina and Pearl from Splatoon 2 and Splatoon 3, as well as Callie from Splatoon 1 and Shiver from Splatoon 3, Fiora from Xenoblade Chronicles, Mio from Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Those are all the Nintendo characters. Francisco Von Karma from Ace Attorney, Emma Sky from Ace Attorney, Trucy Wright from Ace Attorney, and Athena Sykes from Ace Attorney. Lady from Devil May Cry 3 specifically. Jill Valentine from Resident Evil, and Marvel vs. Capcom 2, I guess. Claire Redfield from Resident Evil, Ada Wong from Resident Evil, and Sheva Alomar from Resident Evil. Akira from Rival Schools Project Justice, Chun-Li from Street Fighter, Kimberly from Street Fighter, Cammy from Street Fighter, and Makoto from Street Fighter. Those are all the Capcom characters. Luca from Chrono Trigger, Meryl from Chrono Trigger, Ayla from Chrono Trigger, Yelena from Days X Human Revolution, Elena from Dragon Quest IV, Bianca from Dragon Quest V, Jessica from Dragon Quest VIII, and Red from Dragon Quest VIII. Reitz from Trials of Mana, Leia from Ogre Battle 64. Those are all the Square Enix characters. Edie from Elevator Action Returns, Salon from Lufia Curse of the Sinistrals specifically, Konochi from Ninja Warriors, specifically Return of the Warriors, or Once Again, depending on what version of the game you're playing. Soya-chan or Paki from Kiki Kakai, Paki and Rocky. Those are all the Taito characters. Charlotte from Castlevania Portrait of Ruin, Shinoa from Castlevania Order of Ecclesia, Maria from Castlevania Rondo of Blood, Heather from Silent Hill 3, and those are all the Konami characters. Asha from Monster World 4, Fina from Skies of Arcadia, Aika from Skies of Arcadia, and Piastol from Skies of Arcadia Legends, Cherry from Streets of Rage 4, Ridiel from Unicorn Overlord. I had to personally grab this screen capture and then transparent it to use it because this art isn't available yet. Berengaria from Unicorn Overlord. Those are all the Sega/Atlas characters. Leona from King of Fighters, Isla from King of Fighters, Whip from King of Fighters, and Blue Mary from Fatal Fury King of Fighters. Kojiro from The Last Blade 2. Rosa from Kizuna Encounter. Those are the SNK characters. Valkyrie from Valkyrie no Densetsu / Boken. Kissy from Baraduke. Persea from Tales of Symphonia. Those are all the Bandai Namco characters. Giovanna from Guilty Gear Strive. Elfelt, specifically her Guilty Gear Strive appearance. Masako from River City Girls. Kyoko from River City Girls. Pruvi from River City Girls 2. And Noise from River City Girls. Those are all the Arc System Works characters. We're now into basically mostly independents or companies I only have 1 or 2 characters from. So Grease from Grease, Claire from A Short Hike, Stella from Spiritfarer, Lucia from Grey Lancer, Nuna from Never Alone, Hong from Night Slashers, Mania from Battle Mania, Jade from Beyond Good and Evil, Curly from Cave Story, as well as Misery, Madeline from Celeste, Idle from It'll Do, Azura from The Alliance Alive, Faith from Mirror's Edge, Ellie from Monster Tale, Joanna Dark from Perfect Dark, Shell from Portal, Piper from SteamWorld Heists, that should be Dorothy, Dorothy from SteamWorld Dig 2, Lunace from Time Spinner, Black from Iconoclasts, Meg, I'll just say her shortened name right now, from Hades, The Fool from Sayonara Wild Hearts, Surubi from Transarubi, Maria from The Guardian Legend, Garda Gaiden, Lily from XCOM 2, and Neela from Sly 2, Thieves in Time. Alright, that is all 100 characters, wide range of games, wide range of character personalities and designs. I think all of them are excellent, but I can't just have a huge list of 100 characters. I need to narrow it down a little bit. So I'm doing this in PowerPoint. What I'm going to do is I'm going to save a new version that's going to... So I'll have the 100 list, and then I'll have the short list. And we're going to shorten this down, and I'll explain some of the reasoning why I'm eliminating some of these characters as we go. Alright, so let's start with Nintendo, because I know a few characters that I want to keep, at least in a potential short list. Akari, I love her art in 1080 Avalanche, specifically, and that's the character I play as when I play the N64 1080 or the GameCube 1080, but she's not that much of a favorite, so I feel pretty comfortable letting her go. Ashley is going to be on the short list. I think Ashley is fantastic in Another Code Recollection. I really enjoyed those games earlier this year, and I just can't remove her without narrowing out some other characters. Lynn's staying on this list because she's going to be in the top 10. Petra is going to probably also be arguing for a top 10 spot. I adore her. Edelgard I'm going to also keep on the short list. I love these 4 Fire Emblem characters, so I think they're going to be shortlisted, all 4 of them, for different reasons, but I just adore each of them for different, very compelling reasons for me. We'll get into that more when we narrow it down. Medusa is one of my favorite Nintendo villains, but I don't think she's a top 25 contender. Callista, I love The Last Story. I really like her part in it. I love her design, and the artwork for that game is stunning, but I don't think she's a top 25. Midna is a top 25. She's arguably a top 10. So she's going to stay on the short list. This Zelda, Breath of the Wild Zelda specifically, is my favorite version of the character. Tales of the Kingdom is great as well, but I just really like this version of Zelda just a tiny bit more, and she's going to be on the short list. Impa, as fun as she is and as great as her design is in Hyrule Warriors, is not a character I think can be on my short list. Same with Linkle. I love her personality and quirks in Hyrule Warriors, but not enough to keep her on this list. Samus is arguably the #1 character on this list. She's staying. Kachi is kind of the same deal with, like, Akari. I love the art, and I really like playing as her in Sin and Punishment, but I can't say, like, she's going to be in the top 25. Marina and Pearl, they almost have to go together. They're just iconic together. I think that they're a wonderful addition to the Splatoon universe and still the best hosts. And it makes me sad that I'm not as into side order as I would like to be, so I could get Inkopolis Plaza without having to fight through a mode that's not really my cup of tea. But, you know, I'm going to keep them both here on the short list for now, but Marina is definitely my favorite of the two. Callie and Shiver, as much as I like them, they're not as good as Pearl and Marina, so I'm going to eliminate them. Fiora is a character that I didn't think I would like, but her story in Xenoblade Chronicles is super good. I just don't think she's quite top 25. She's close. I'd say top 50, but not top 25. Same with Mio. I need to play more Xenoblade Chronicles 3. This is more of a, I really like her design and what little I've seen of her in the game, but I really need to pick that back up. There's just too many big games happening all at once right now. For Capcom, Francisca One Karma is going to probably be close to a top 10 character. She's my favorite character in Ace Attorney. I just love her storyline, and I wish that she was in some of the later games, not just the 2 she's in. Not counting Investigations, but she's staying on this list. Emma and Trucy and Athena. Out of those 3, if I were to only pick 2, it would be Trucy. So Emma and Athena are wonderful. I love them dearly. They're just not quite there. Lady, I adore. I adore her design in DMC3. It would be the only reason I would buy DMC3 again, is to enjoy her character in that game, because I think she's phenomenal. She's just not been handled very well in the sequels, in my opinion. Even though 5 got close with the design aesthetic, she just looks so rad in 3, and nothing's come close to it, and the story just hasn't done her justice since. So I'm going to keep her on the short list, but she's not going to be probably much higher than in the top 25. Out of the Resident Evil characters, I'm going to probably give it to Claire and Ada. I have a bias for Resident Evil 2 and 4. So they're staying. Kira is one of my absolute favorite fighting game characters. What an awesome design. She just is super, super cool. So she's going to stay on this list for now. And we'll see how high she gets. Out of Street Fighter, Makoto's my least out of these 4, but I'm going to probably have to give it to Chun and Kimberly. Cammy, I adore playing Cammy. I just have felt embarrassed playing Cammy until Street Fighter 6 because of her butt. Being such a central part of her character ethos that it's just awkward. But, you know, one game fixing that is great. I love her in Street Fighter 6. I love playing her in Street Fighter 6. I have no embarrassment playing her in Street Fighter 6. But in contrast, Kimberly is just a great design, great personality. Have no issues with her, and Chun-Li's an icon. So Cammy's gonna have to sit this one out. In Square Enix land, I'm gonna have to just probably narrow Chrono Trigger down to 2, and Meryl's gonna be the one out. I think she's the least interesting of the 3. Yelena's one of my favorite antagonists, but I don't think she's going to make it to the top 25. Out of Dragon Quest, this is all Red. I apologize to the other 3, but Red is my favorite Dragon Quest character, and she's the one that's going to be in contention. Reese, I like, but not enough to be in the top 25. Leia could be close. But I think I'm going to go ahead and pass. I love Edie a ton. I think she's one of my favorite women in games, so I'm going to have her on this list for now. Salon, I really liked her character arc in Curse of the Sinistrals a lot more than what I played of Rise of the Sinistrals, and I really like her redesign, but she's not a top 25. Kenochi, I just like playing. I do have some issues with how Tango Project really amplified her bust size in this game in contrast to the original. So I'm going to have her sit out. Soya-chan can stay on, though. I love Soya-chan. I think that she's a wonderful character. Charlotte and Shanoa and Maria. I'm going to probably give Charlotte the edge over Shanoa. And I'll keep Maria on as second place. But Charlotte is my favorite woman in Castlevania. Heather's staying on this list because she's a top 10 character. Alright, for Sega, Asha, I don't think... I keep saying her name different each time I say it, but Asha is probably correct. I like her, but there's issues I have with her game overall that make me a little less excited about keeping her in a top 25, so I'm going to go ahead and cut her out. For Skies, unfortunately, Fina's going to have to take the bow because I like Aika and PS Stole so much more. Cherry Hunter's fantastic. I love playing as her in Streets of Rage 4, so I think she's going to stay on as a contender. Out of my Unicorn Overlord playthrough, these two characters were the two that stood out, and they're going to stay on the short list for now. Ridiel's the one I ultimately went with in terms of marrying Elaine. Too many 5-letter A names I don't hear very often. I really liked her character arc a ton, and I just like Ren a lot in terms of her armor design, and just her general animation was just sick. And she's got some great moves and a really interesting backstory. So these two are going to stay on for now. Leona's arguably a top 10 character, so she's going to stay. Isla's going to probably be a top 25 contender, so Whip's going to sit out. I really like Blue Mary. I really like Blue Mary a lot. She could stay on because I think she's a contender for a top 25 possibly. Kojiro and Rosa are not. Valkyrie I would say is not top 25. Kissy's not either, and neither's Persea. Elfelt is. I love Giovanna, but I don't think she's quite 25. But Elfelt really blew me away. She's such a great redesign of her Zard design. This is fantastic. I love Elfelt. So she's going to stay on for now. I have to pick Misako and Kyoko out of the River City Girls choices. There's no other options. Sorry. Sorry, Pruby. Sorry, Noise. I like you both. Grease is on this list. She's staying on this list. She's not going anywhere. Claire, I really like Claire and her personality. I think I'll leave her on the short list, but she's probably not going to quite hit the 25. Stella is a wonderful design, wonderful character, but she doesn't really have much of a personality, at least in the base game. I still haven't played the DLC, and I really need to rectify that one of these days. I'll leave her on the short list for now, but we'll see where she lands. Lucia is not going to make it. Nuna's not going to make it. Hong's not going to make it. Mania, I need to finish the second game before I really have a stronger opinion. I like her in the first game. I like her personality, but the second game, she's got so much more of it. I'll leave her on the short list for now, but I can't promise that she's going to stay in the top 25. Jade's number 2. Could be number 1 depending on how much I'm hating Ubisoft on a particular day. So she's staying. I like Misery more than Curly, so Misery will be the one that stays. I think she's one of my favorite antagonists. Madeline's gonna stay. Idle, I think I also want to keep on here. I just like her sass. Azura, I really like Azura in her game. I just don't think in comparison to the competition she's gonna last. Faith, I also really like her in Mirror's Edge, but again, I don't think she's got the legs to, as much as she's all about parkour. What a great pun. To hang in the top 50, much less the top 25. Ellie's kind of the same deal. I really like Monster Tail. I really wanted that remake to happen twice, and it's not happening. I don't really know if I want to play her game again without that, so she's going to have to say goodbye. Joanna's going to stay, as well as Shell. I love both of them. Out of the Steam World characters, I like Piper more. So Dorothy's going to go. Lunaeus is going to stay. Black is going to stay. Meg I like a lot, but I don't think she's going to stick around on the list. Same with the Fool. Sarubi, we're getting near the end here. And I like Sarubi's design a lot. Her character is kind of unique and funny. I think I'll leave her on the short list. Maria, it's almost entirely this art. It is almost entirely this one piece of artwork that I love this character. And I don't think that's fair because I haven't even really played Guardian Legend yet. So I'm going to remove her for now, but she could come back whenever I decide to redo this. Lily Chen is an important part of XCOM 2. And she can become a playable unit in a map. As much as I like her, I don't think she's top 50. So I'm going to cut her. And Neela's one of my favorite villains. So let's go back real fast. See if I could spot someone that just kind of leaps to mind as I kind of kept them around when I probably shouldn't have. Well, I've done a good job of calling this list because I'm having a hard time making that decision. It's going to be Mania for now because I feel like I need a little bit more depth with her second game. So we're down to 50. We're down to 50. So let's scroll back up to the top. Ashley I want to keep in the 25, and I'm going to cut 2 of the Fire Emblem characters. And Lynn and Petra are my 2 favorites. So Edelgard and Marin are going to have to sit this out. Minna in this version of Zelda I really like. I can't do anything about that. I love Claire and Ada. I love Kimberly more than Chun-Li, and as much as Chun-Li's an icon, I think my preference is for Kimberly out of Street Fighter. So I'm going to go ahead and keep Kimberly in. I'm going to go ahead and take Luca out and probably Ayla as well. As much as I love those 2 characters, they're just not quite top 25 for me. Red is a definitely contender. Edie and Soya-chan are. Charlotte is. Maria's not. Heather is. Aika and Piastol are. Cherry is not, tragically, as fun as she is. These characters are so new that it's kind of hard for me to want to eliminate either of them. I'm going to stick 1 Unicorn Overload character, and it's going to be Ridiel, because that is ultimately the character I chose to be Elaine's partner. I'm going to cut Blue Mary. I think Leona and Isla are my 2 favorite SNK characters by a long shot. I'm going to cut Claire. I love her personality, but just not quite top 25 material. Same with Misery. Same with Idle. I think she's top 50, not quite top 25. Shell has no personality. That's the really difficult thing. I think that she's just a great character design, and her absolute silence speaks volumes. But because it's a first-person game primarily, and you're really just running around, I don't think I could keep her in the top 25. Sarubi is a top 50, but not a top 25. Black is one of the best villains. I have to keep her in consideration a little bit longer. So let's scroll back up, and we'll keep considering here. If I were to pick between these 2 for Ace Attorney, I think Trucy would probably be a top 50, but not top 25, because I don't really like the fact that she got sidelined so hard in the 5th and 6th game. Really badly. Like, really badly. I was very disappointed by that. I can't say that I'm disappointed about Franziska's arc much at all, outside of letting herself be bullied a bit by Godot in the last game. Claire and Ada I love too much to try to break them apart. If I were to pick one River City girl, it would be Misako. Kyoko is great, but I really like Misako more. Stella's going to kind of have that personality thing, since she doesn't really interact. She's just going through the motions as the avatar. As great as her design is, I really look forward to the DLC, though. She could come back into this top 25 consideration, but not at the moment. Neela is one of the best villains that I've come across, and is easily Sly Cooper's best antagonist, in my opinion, out of the 3 games I've played of the 4. But I just don't think she's quite top 25. I think Black is arguably in the running to be the villain that makes it into the top 25, with Franziska as an antagonist. Alright, we're at 32, so 7 more to cut. Pearl, unfortunately, is not a top 25 character for me, so she's going to stay there because I'm not going to swap her art out, but it's going to be just her. So that actually makes things 31. Soya-chan got close, but I think I'm going to cut her. Joanna is close, but I think I'm going to cut her. Piper is close, but I think I'm going to cut her. Elfelt really left a strong impression. She really did. Alright, as we start getting into this, I think I'm going to bench Claire. Primarily because, as of right now, there is no Code Veronica remake to improve her character arc in that game. She's wonderful in 2 and 2 remake. Really iffy in Code Veronica. 2 more to go. Gonna give Red the closest of calls, but I think that she's not quite top 25. Really close, but not quite there. And I think, as much as it hurts me to put Lady at 26, just to have her right outside the scope, I don't like how she's handled in 4 and 5. To quickly recap the new top 25 women: Ashley, Lynn, Petra, Midna, Zelda, Samus, Marina, Franziska, Ada, Akira, Kimberly, Edie, Charlotte, Heather, Aika, Piestol, Ridiel, Leona, Isla, Elfelt, Misako, Grease, Jade, Madeline, Lunaeus, Black. I feel pretty good about that narrowing of this list. Alright, we are back after that. What felt like to you nothing, just a cat intermission. But for me, it's been a couple days. And I went ahead and sorted the list just to make things a little bit easier production-wise for me. So we are now at number 1. I went with Jade. I will say, just for little editorial purposes, that I had 26 slides, not 25, when I did the sort. So Ridio from Unicorn Overlord was the one I cut. Despite me really liking her character, I don't think she was able to quite top a couple that were towards the bottom of this list to be in the top 25. Jade. As much as I have issues with the company that her IP falls under, and my deep and very profound concern for the future of this franchise, Jade is in a fortunate position that the one game she's appeared in is pretty much perfect in terms of her characterization. She has great narrative. She has nigh perfect voice acting. I think her costume is a little bit fan servicey, but at the same time, I think it's also believable. And her skill set is unique, and she is a prominent, and I'm going to use quotes around here, Asian woman protagonist. I use quotes only because she's on a planet called Hillies that doesn't really fall under the same concept of ethnicity that we have here on Earth, but her facial features align with that ethnicity, so that's why I designate her as such. Jade is just a wonderful character and doesn't have any baggage, and since I'm not going to give the sequel really any time or day, she won't. I can ignore that really bizarre crossover event that Jade was a part of as a TV show, because I know the Ubisoft that exists now doesn't understand the character that they made back in 2003. Number 2 is Samus from Metroid. Probably not a surprise, since I said, depending on my hate of Ubisoft, it would be Jade or Samus, so unsurprisingly, Samus would probably be my number 1. She's got a long history. She is a badass. She is one of the greatest armor designs in any video game ever made, with a nigh perfect list of weapons and gadgets that allow her to explore dangerous alien worlds. And it has multiple suits of armor that have really stood out from each other. It's rare when you get to redesign a character and it all works, and Samus is one of those rare exceptions. There's 2 slights on Samus that prevent her from being the number 1 in my book. The first is Nintendo's, until recently, consistent fan service treatment of her for endings. From the very first game through the majority of all of the sequels, Samus has taken off her clothes as a reward for the player playing the game quickly or to completion. There's only 2 games that I am aware of that she is the star that doesn't do that in a skeevy way, and that's Metroid Prime and Metroid Dread. I haven't played Other M or Corruption to the end, so I can't say if those are exceptions or not. But every other one that I have played does that, to my disappointment. The other game that is a problem, generally speaking, for Samus as a character is Other M, which did so much damage to the mythos that Samus has built in the minds of fans and contradicted official comics and official manga and official sources, to basically undermine Samus's personality to her detriment, and really signaled a change to leadership. Sakamoto may still be involved, but he is not as involved as he was with Other M. It's rare that a Nintendo game gets that much backlash the way that Metroid Other M did, and it's primarily because of how they character assassinated its heroine. So with those two factors, as much as it pains me, I can't give Samus the top spot. But in every other way, I love Samus. Number 3, Heather Mason from Silent Hill 3. Although she was also in Silent Hill 1. It's primarily 3 that I think she is a fantastic character. And I really had to think between number 3 and number 4 here. But I do think that Heather is the stronger of the characters in terms of her story. She has a very dark path in front of her in Silent Hill 3. But I think that the way that it's written and the way that her voice actress portrays her is absolutely phenomenal. And Heather is a survivor. She is a warrior in the modern context and battles faith and battles belief in this game. Something that I am very much a fan of. Just so she could be left alone. And she loses her father and has to figure out how to live on her own in the process of this game. Silent Hill 3 is a masterpiece. It may not be the narrative masterpiece that Silent Hill 2 is, but it is still a masterpiece in storytelling and character development. And Heather is the shining beacon, as this illustration of her seems to suggest, in the industry. I also really like her design. I really think she's an excellent design. I am seriously contemplating getting a statue of her that Numskull made. I'm just trying to justify the cost. Speaking of statues that I was able to justify the cost, so that's why I kind of want to get one of Heather. Lynn from Fire Emblem, the Binding Blade, is number 4. I've always thought Lynn was an amazing design, especially in her original game. And she has some of the slickest 2D animation of any character I've ever seen. Intelligent Systems really delivered a splendid take on how she moves so quickly. I think it's really well done. Her story may not be as strong as the 3 above her, it was Nintendo's first attempt at localizing Fire Emblem well before Three Houses, and Awakening, and the current kind of mode that they do it. But I just think Lynn is fantastic. The reason why Heather ended up getting a little bit of a leg up on Lynn is that later games she's appeared in, Fire Emblem Warriors, Fire Emblem Engage, and Fire Emblem Heroes, have for some reason just felt compelled to increase her bust size. It's just one of those unfortunate tendencies that happen with women characters, is they try to sexify them, and Lynn has unfortunately been a bit of a victim of that. Less so in Engage, but definitely in Warriors, and definitely in Heroes. So, as much as I love her, I have a statue of her, which kind of has the same problem, unfortunately. But I just think she's such a great design all the way around, and is the best reason to play Fire Emblem Warriors outside of the cosmetic change. Because she's a lot of fun in that too. And I used her almost exclusively in Engage with Maya Lear. So I just really like Lynn. I think she's fantastic. Grease is number 5. And this probably isn't too much of a surprise, given how much I love that game and how passionate I am about it. Grease may not have the most personality of all of the women on this list. She's silent. She has to express herself with limited emotions, basically, because she has to earn them as she goes through the game. But her arc of going through grief in the stages, executed in a beautiful landscape, and you can just see her growth in her abilities and in her animations. It's superbly done. Namada Studio blew me away with Grease, and because of that, I adore her, and I think that she's got some of the best art in any video game on top of that. So those factors combined make me a huge fan of her. And while I couldn't put her higher than 5th, because I think the 4 characters above her offer a lot more in terms of their personality, so to speak, Grease deserves to be in the top 5 for me. Petra from Fire Emblem Three Houses is number 6. I think she is a wonderful Fire Emblem addition and really showcases, I think, the struggle for second language users in a way that is done very, very well. I think that having her be from a foreign country in an awkward, not quite hostage, but kinda hostage situation, trying to learn the customs and the language of the country that is kinda keeping her there for security reasons, and just like the weight of all that is so elegantly expressed in Three Houses and in Three Hopes. She's also got great designs in both games, and a really, really well done voice acting job to make that complicated character come out. Petra's one of the reasons why I adore Three Houses so much, and why I'm going to probably be a Black Eagles fan for the rest of my days. Just an absolutely excellent character. If I did more than 2 characters per franchise, I think there would be a couple other Fire Emblem characters, Edelgard and Marin, in this top 25, but I really didn't want it to be flooded with just one franchise. Marina from Splatoon is number 7, and she's kind of got a similar situation to Petra. Marina was the first Octoling to basically make Inkopolis understand their plight is not that they're enemies, but that they are just trying to... Not all Octolings believe in DJ Octavio's choice to try to dominate Inkopolis. It talks a lot about xenophobia through her story, and the challenges that she had to overcome. The fact that she's also Black, I think, adds an interesting wrinkle and makes it more real world in that way. There were Black skin options in Splatoon 1, but by having one of the idols be Black, I think is very important. And they did it again with Fry in 3, which I greatly appreciated. But I just think Marina is a really well thought out character that really explores those themes. And when you get into Octo Expansion and in Side Order, you get a lot more of her background and just the depth that she has. And she's just great. I mean, I love her outfits outside of her default one. Her default one's fine, but it is a little bit like, how much skin can we show as a Nintendo character kind of vibe. But I really like her alt outfits a lot. And, she's confident in her skin, which I think is very important. So she's number 7. Franziska von Karma is number 8. And I think she's probably the best rival character in the entire Phoenix Wright. What is 6? 6 games. Sept, I think it's Septology. That just doesn't even sound right. I think that she was a great addition to the series Injustice for All and made that game's weaknesses less apparent, because it has quite a few. And then her coming back in Trials and Tribulations was really well handled as well, outside of, I think I said earlier, Godot really being an ass. But she gives Phoenix a real challenge because she's really motivated to beat him. And also gives Edgeworth some challenge since they kind of have a rivalry of their own. So she basically came in and shook up the entire concept of the game by making both Wright and Edgeworth on edge, so to speak. But she's not evil. She's not malicious. She's just really got ego issues that she does resolve a little bit by the time you get to Investigations. It's a shame that she kind of disappears from the franchise after Trials and Tribulations and Investigations 1 and 2, though. I think it would have been interesting to see her with the older Phoenix and Apollo. But perhaps they didn't quite know how to translate her whip-happy personality into an older character. So perhaps it's for the better. But in terms of Ace Attorney characters, she's definitely on the top and is my favorite Capcom woman, I guess, now that I realize it. Midna, number 9. Midna is just fantastic. I really like Midna in Twilight Princess. She was a very good ally for Link in that game. She really brought a lot of much needed support and sass to the franchise. And I think that her design is really interesting, and her backstory is really interesting, and her powers and the way that they made them look are really cool. Very different. And doesn't quite get Majora's Mask levels, but Midna can get pretty creepy with some of the stuff that she does. So I just think Midna's fantastic, and she's also a lot of fun in Hyrule Warriors, running around as a wolf. So I just think she's great, and I have 2 different figures of her, an amiibo and a gacha toy. So one's at my office and one's at home. So I think that says a lot. Number 10 goes to Leona from King of Fighters. And she apparently is my favorite fighting game character. And I think that's just something that I've recently realized how much I like Leona. She entered the series in 96, if I'm not mistaken, as a part of the Ikari team, and really just kind of cemented herself as a staple in the series ever since. She only really sat out in 11. And then came back in 12 with a redesign that I like a lot less than the one you see in the picture here. She's got really sick moves. She's got a really strong animation style around her. Like her moves are really cool looking. She has my favorite super in any video game. Just an all-around great design. I wish that SNK would permanently revert her to this look, because I think it's so much better than just sports bra and army pants. But at the very least, there's all the old games and the alt costume in 15 that, will make me happy. Alright, we are now out of the top 10. So number 11 goes to Edie from Elevator Action Returns. And the thing about Edie that I really like is that she's not the speedy one. Usually in video game beat 'em ups and the like, the woman is the fastest character. She takes the most damage or doesn't hit very hard, but she can move quickly. And Edie is not that. She is the best gun user in the game. Cart is the speedy one. So she's got the best gun and, in my opinion, grenade in the game. And she is just rad. I think she's a really sick design. Taito's best, in my opinion, at least in this category. And I think she's just a fun character to draw. This is who I submitted for Pateronica, which was a fanzine that came out last year. And I really went all out on trying to color her and give her like a lot of depth to that piece of art, and was very proud of it. And she's the reason I love Elevator Action Returns as much as I do. Madeline from Celeste is number 12. Madeline has an incredible story in Celeste, and that's one of the reasons why I adore the game so much. Is not the really intense gameplay, even though that is excellent. It's Madeline's story of trying to figure out who she is and trying to overcome things that she doesn't like about herself, and realizing that that's a part of her that's just as important. And by extension, Badeline, which is kind of the nickname given to her other part. Those two parts being able to come together and form a union that makes her more powerful is just one of the best I think I've experienced in a game. And she's also a very prominent trans character. It took a little while, I think, for that to really sink in for her creator, but once she realized that, I believe it. I think this is a trans narrative, and it's a very important one. And Madeline is a wonderful design with a really powerful story to tell. So I adore Madeline so much. I'm so happy I have some plushes of her and Madeline in my house. Ashley is number 14. Ashley is wonderful. I kind of want to get Trace Memory for the DS at some point so I can kind of have a better sense of how she was originally. But the way that she is written and portrayed in recollection, I just really liked her story. I thought she had a really powerful narrative, and her redesigns were phenomenal. The voice actress that played her did a fantastic job. And you really see the tribulations that she has had to go through without having a parent, really, in the first part, and trying to understand what it's like to have one in the second. Just a phenomenally well-written and well-executed character. Number 15 is Aika from Skies of Arcadia. My favorite supporting character in an RPG, I think. The problem with doing this is I kind of forget what I've already done. But Aika is a fantastic best friend device and a fantastic design. I really like Aika's design a lot, and I think that she is a really good back to Vice's anxieties about the path that he's on, and giving him motivation to keep moving forward. And she's just like a great best friend that, you know, might have a crush on him, he might have a crush on her, but the game doesn't really push it much further than that. And I think that works really well because I get a stronger sense of those two being platonic than with Vice and Fina. I just think that Aika is one of the best RPG characters in any game. I really do. So for the rest of these, I'm going to try to keep it a little bit shorter because we're already at 26 minutes for this part. So Ada is number 16. I think she is a fantastic rival character. She's got really cool gadgets. She's got a lot of interesting motives that she keeps really well hidden to herself. And I think the remakes really amplify my liking of Ada. I think she was great in the original RE2 and RE4. I think she's phenomenal in remake RE2 and RE4. Just much more captivating and fascinating. And I really like playing as her in separate ways in the remake. Akira from Rival Schools, another fighting game character that I really like. Just a sick design. Having the biker element around her just really made her stand out in a game that already had such strong character design. But like the thick gloves and the color choices, and when she's fighting in Project Justice, she has just this camo tank top with these spiky pants. It's just great. I just think Akira is also really rad to play as and has a strong moveset. All the way around, one of Capcom's best characters. Zelda from Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. I prefer her a little bit more in Breath of the Wild. I said this earlier. Primarily because she doesn't really have a negative thing happen in the game. And I know that she's going through a negative thing through the game. But there's something about Breath of the Wild that I feel Zelda has a little bit more agency, and I also feel that her researcher side gets explored a lot more. What happens in Tears of the Kingdom is that, yeah, she's got that at the very beginning, but then she is whisked through time and kind of becomes a very different type of character, which I still like, and I think it's still well done. But I missed the researcher. I missed the Zelda that wanted to know things. And that's there in the beginning and a little bit at the end, but not really in the middle for Tears of the Kingdom. And I missed that about her. So that's probably a reason why she's down the list quite a ways. I would have probably put just Breath of the Wild Zelda up higher, but she's still one of my favorites, and I really like her color choices in both games. I think both games have great outfits for her. I like her with the short hair in Tears of the Kingdom. She does really cool stuff in both games. I just wish she didn't lose what I thought was a really central part of her design in Tears. Isla for a hot second was in the top 10. For a hot second. Because I love Isla. I think she is such a sick design. SNK's finest work in recent gen, in my opinion. Just an absolute badass punk rival character. The reason why she slid down to, I believe we're at, 19? Is because she's so new. And in a fighting game, when you make a debut, you build upon that. And she hasn't had a chance to really build from here. She also has kind of a strange story beat where she becomes the evil boss because she loses control of her powers. And then it doesn't really explore that much more. It just kind of happens, and then we don't really know. And I would like to see where Isla goes, and that might make her go up. But ultimately, I think she's a great design, and I like her moveset, and I really like her attitude. Kimberly's right behind her, because I feel like these two, if we have a Capcom versus SNK 3, these two need to be in it and on a team together. Because they're almost the left hand and the right hand of character design. Both do graffiti, both are very agile. both have really strong outfit designs. I just think Kimberly is one of Capcom's best efforts in Street Fighter. And ultimately, my favorite Street Fighter that is a woman in the series. I just think she's so fun and a delight to watch her animations. She's got a great moveset. Got the Bushin moveset down in a way that I really appreciate, that I couldn't quite with Guy or Maki. Oh, I just think she's really cool. Luneus from Time Spinner has really good narrative, really great power set. She's a really excellent character. Probably could be a little bit higher if I played her game a little bit more recently. But I think that she's a really great indie pro tag that stands really strongly in a sea of Metroidvania protagonists. She's also, I believe, at least bi, which I think is great representation. She's also a woman of color. So she's got a lot of things that I like seeing in my pro tags. Just some diversity is always good in my opinion. So I really like her. Pistol is my one of my favorite rival characters, added in Disguise of Arcadia Legends. I think she's got a great design and really compelling reasoning for her acting the way that she does, even if it's ultimately a misunderstanding. The way that Skies handles that development is really well done. And I just think that she was the missing thing in the Dreamcast game. And when they added her to Legends, it kind of just like, oh, it makes sense. We have this character that's not with the Empire, but is also really powerful and really dangerous. And gives Vice something to think about in terms of the direction that he's going. So I think she's fantastic. Elle Felt. This character is like perfect in Strive. I am absolutely floored how she used to be and how she is now. I didn't like Elle Felt's design in Erd. And now she's one of the sickest fighting game characters ever made, being a death metal constantly looking for love musician fighter. With just like her animations are great. She's got so much personality in her face and how she reacts to things. Her moveset is comical but also dangerous. It's just, she's so good. She is so good. I love Elle Felt. She could probably be higher on this list, but as of right now, I'm just happy that she's here. Black is one of the best villains in any video game. And unlike everybody else that's been a rival on this list, this Black is the real deal. She is a villain. She has very strong motivations for doing what she's doing and trying to kill Robin. Her backstory is tragic and continues to be tragic, and her rage and wrath for what has happened to her and the people that she loves is really well executed in Iconoclast. She is the strength of that game. If only that brother of Robin's wasn't there, I would probably like that game a lot more than I do. But Black is a phenomenal antagonist, and my favorite probably of all antagonists in terms of women. Charlotte is a magic user in Castlevania, and that's not something that is unique, but I think she does it best. I also really like her design, and I like the fact that even though she's with the church, she's not a pure character. She doesn't just come off as saintly, I guess is a good way of putting it. She has some attitude with Jonathan, and their dynamic works really well. I really like her animations. I think she's extremely fun to play in that game. She's a little bit more challenging, but her charge up to attack style of gameplay is really fun once you get into the groove with it. And she's just my favorite Castlevania woman by quite a bit. And then I believe we are at the end here with Misako from River City Girls. My character of choice when I play the game. I really like her character design a lot. I like her not gonna put up with crap attitude. I like the fact that she is very strong in both her will and in the way that she fights. She's uses her backpack to fight with, which I think is great. Okay, well, that's that. To conclude, I hope that this was interesting. I enjoy talking about them. This episode is going to be a little bit on the long side, but that's all right. We will be back after Gamers in Control run with a whole bunch of pickups, and I think it's going to probably be an inventory-ish type of thing. So look forward to that. Thanks for watching again. Have a wonderful set of days. Until the next one, take care. With Princess Peach Showtime, they didn't actually have love technical problems in the middle of doing an episode. And by technical problems, hands.